What's up everybody, it's RobinGaming here. So I've been doing a few looking back episodes so far, and it kind of like requested game series that kept coming back, that people kept asking for, was just the Uncharted series in general. And I realized that, you know, although I've been making a lot of videos on the series, of course, pretty much ever since I started my YouTube channel, I never really have talked as much about the games that came before I started with YouTube, and those are, you know, Uncharted 1 and also maybe Uncharted 2 in some way, although I did actually talk quite a bit about that because it's my favorite one in the series. But I thought, you know, why not look at each entry individually and tell you, you know, my what I liked so much about it, what I liked less about it maybe, my overall, you know, feeling about the game and stuff, my experience. So I think I'll do that. I'll talk about each and every Uncharted game, maybe even Golden Abyss, the spin-off on the Vita, but yeah, we'll see. Let's first, you know, do some episodes on the first 3 Uncharted games, of course leading up to Uncharted 4 that is coming out next year, and I absolutely can't wait for that one. But yeah, the very first entry in the series is of course Uncharted Drake's Fortune, which came out, I think it was around October, November of 2007, so at the time I got my PlayStation 3, which was in the fall of 2008. Uncharted Drake's Fortune had been out for quite a time already. I can still remember very well when I got the game, which was in April of 2009, so that is exactly, you know, around 1.5 years later. Yeah, I went on a school trip to France, already, you know, talked about this story a few times, but I saw Uncharted Drake's Fortune, you know, lying there, you know, in the PS3 section of this game shop. I had only just, you know, gotten my PlayStation 3, had it for a few months, and I still needed, you know, a lot of great games. I saw it there for a very reasonable price. I think at the time it was like 19 euros, and I had a friend, you know, tell me that it was actually supposed to be a really good game. I had personally never heard of it before yet, so yeah, I mean, I got the game there, I bought it instantly. I remember going back home, and because it was already late, I didn't really play much that day, but I played the very first chapter, and I thought, you know, it was off to with a good start, and I was interested in playing more of it, so that's what I did. The next day I pretty much really started playing it, and I recently looked back at my my trophy list, and it said that I beat the game within 2 days, which actually surprised me because at the time I wasn't really as much of a real hardcore gamer or somebody who would you know, play games for hours a day or whatever. So having beaten it in 2 days says something for how much I already enjoyed it at the time. So all in all, what I can say about Uncharted Drake's Fortune is that it was a really great experience, something that I had never seen before. It was the point where I saw that, whoa, they are actually trying to do something with games here that I personally have never experienced before. You had these great graphics, you know, beautiful locations, and a story that totally sucked you in with characters that you actually cared about. And I also loved how, you know, the great thing about Uncharted has always been its pacing to me, because you start playing this huge epic like section of the game, you know, like when you actually finish it and you've done something truly epic or whatever, the game always shows you a cutscene or lets you play a part where it's much slower paced and where you actually have time to take a breath or something like that. What I liked a lot about the very first game is that it had a completely different tone from the other games, had a much more mysterious tone. The soundtrack was much more suited to that as well. It was a more, you know, compact experience where you were just playing on one island, and I'm not saying it's bad that the other games are more like a journey around the world. Actually, in Uncharted 2, I think, you know, that's still the best setting of the whole series, but I like that it was just taking place on this one big island and you are fully exploring it. I will talk about this in my next looking back episode on Uncharted 2, but I love the fact that you like experience the story from the beginning to the end all in one go, and it wasn't, you know, you weren't like skipping time, skipping like a few months or weeks or whatever. No, it all happened while you were playing it, and the plot itself, you know, once again pretty compact, but in itself just very good and mysterious, where at the end, upon beating, you know, the game, I was actually like, oh, so that's really how it all played out, and this is what happened to you know, Francis Drake and stuff. I think the plot in itself might just very well be the best of the series, because it is a little more simpler, I guess. Doesn't really, you know, it's more real, I think. But yeah, I mean, that being said, one thing I've always really noticed about the Uncharted games is that they tend to really be different in the way that, for example, the first half will always be much different from the second half. you know, Uncharted Drake's Fortune started pretty slow to me. I mean, the first chapter on the boat is great, and the second and third chapter as well, where you're pretty much exploring these tombs with Sully. But then afterwards, the game kind of like drops you in a part where you're all alone. You're just trying to basically survive and get through this whole part with a lot of pirates. You know, afterwards you get like some jet ski sections where you keep traversing from one area to the other on this big jet ski using your grenade launcher, and it all wasn't really that interesting. It is from around chapter 13 on, you know, the exact middle of the game where it starts getting really interesting, and you start, you know, going to this particular side of the island where, you know, you really have the feeling like a mystery is going on there, and you get to this church, for example, at some point, and you don't really know, you know, what it is or whatever, or that you're gonna, you know, come back to it. But then a few chapters later you will come back to it, and all of a sudden you'll realize there's something up with that, and that there's a hidden passage and stuff, and it's super well done. I really loved it, especially towards the end. Something that people have always complained about, and these are probably, you know, a few spoilers, so if you haven't played the game yet and you don't want me to spoil anything, I'd say just stop watching or whatever. But yeah, something that people have always complained about are the monsters that pretty much show up at the end. But you know, anybody who will have played an Uncharted game by now will know that monsters were always, or just like a supernatural element, they just became part of the series. I think it's actually pretty cool. But yeah, Uncharted Drake's Fortune had some pretty clunky controls, maybe, where you were just aiming your gun, and then it would be very hard to aim to the left or to the right, you know, to turn 90 degrees in a short time. That just simply wasn't possible. So you know, if you wanted to use your guns on enemies, they had to be far away. And of course the game did feature a melee system and whatever. It just wasn't as good yet as it was in the second and in the third game. So all in all, yeah, it was always very hard when enemies got very close to you. Something people also complained about was that it didn't feature a multiplayer mode, but you know, in the end, like, it was still a great experience, and it was Naughty Dog's very first game on the PlayStation 3. They were still experimenting, you know, with the system themselves, and I think, you know, they just had to put a lot of effort into making sure that this game was of decent length, and then to also already have a multiplayer mode would maybe be a step too much. So of course we did see multiplayers in the Uncharted games that followed, but yeah, for now all I can say about Uncharted Drake's Fortune is that I thought it was a fantastic game, absolutely mind-blowing. It tried something new, it tried to be innovative, bring a completely different genre of games that would pretty much be evolved, you know, in the whole generation, pretty much, with you know, this super cinematic storytelling. And I think, yeah, they had a very good start there. It only showed me how promising the future of gaming was, and the months leading up to the release of Uncharted 2 were just you know, months full of pure anticipation. So yeah, I was wondering if Naughty Dog would be able to outdo themselves with the second game, and luckily they were able to do that in every single way. But you'll hear all about that you know, in my next looking back episode, where I will be looking back at Uncharted 2. But for now, I just want to know all your thoughts on Uncharted Drake's Fortune. What did you think of the game? Was it as much of an amazing experience to you when you first played it? And was it the very first game you played, or did you maybe first experience a different Uncharted game? And then for now, I'd like to thank you a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.